YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. In this video, I got 10 sleeper undrafted free agents that could be sneaky good signings. Maybe some of these guys who aren't the biggest names could make an impact preseason, make the team, maybe even more than that. Pretty good players here that are kind of being slept on. We have a very recent video, undrafted free agent video, that has my best top 10. I had rankings. There's actually 15 guys we talk about in that video. But if you're interested, check it out after this video or before, whatever floats your boat there. But a couple undrafted free agency videos are always pretty popular. It's always interesting to see which of these guys maybe can make a big impact here that were a little unexpected. So excited about this. We have recent draft winners videos, grades, full grades. That was a recent video. 2024 Way Twilly Mock. We got you covered here. More of those types of videos to come. Like, subscribe to notifications on. Follow us on Twitter. It's on your screen as well as our sponsors, Liquid IV, code GOAT. GLD Shop has some sick NFL jewelry. We have a 33% off code there, code GOAT. Links pinned in the comments. First one, XAZAVIAN VALLADAY from Arizona State, the running back who actually used to be a Wyoming running back as well and was very solid there. And then goes, upgrades a little bit, goes to Arizona State, kind of taking over for Rachaad White. Big shoes to fill. And he was solid. He was really good. And I felt like they had other pretty decent running backs on that roster. So they get somebody, in the transfer portal to take over, and he was good. And I think he was better when he was on Arizona State than he was on Wyoming. So that's a pretty good sign. I think he's sub or under 200 pounds, which isn't the biggest deal in today's game. But I think he plays bigger than that. He looks bigger than that too. And I think he plays bigger than that. He's very quick, very athletic as well. I like that he improved going to playing a little bit tougher competition. So that's one for the Texans who, I'd say, obviously Dameon Pierce is locked in at the number one running back for them. But I'd say, like, we're talking about like depth, like even getting down like third string. Like, I think that could be pretty open in a good camp / preseason battle. So VALLADAY is an interesting guy to watch there. Not a huge name. But another running back that went undrafted that went to the Chiefs, DENERIC Prince from Tulsa, who's very solid for them. He's got good size and very good athleticism as well. I think the issue with he's got a weird running style. Sometimes a little too high. Sometimes he, something with it. It's really weird. Picks his knees up pretty high possibly. But at the end of the day, he's fast. He's physical. He could break tackle. He could slip tackles, and he was pretty good. He's pretty talented. Tested very well. We talked about the athleticism. And it's something with the Chiefs and these types of running backs, like these sneaky, sleeper type running backs, either at the bottom of the draft or undrafted free agency. Just something about it, So a guy to watch here. Maybe a lot of us thought he could get drafted a little later, but yeah, a guy that, maybe just missed the cut in the top 10 undrafted free agency signings there. So a couple running backs we talked about. Let's talk about a receiver, CJ Johnson, going to the Seattle Seahawks from East Carolina. East Carolina could play. That offense was pretty solid, high power, but CJ Johnson really caught my eye during the year. That bowl game against Coastal Carolina as well. Really, really caught my eye. But yeah, super talented. He's almost like a big slot receiver type that can play outside, but really good contested catch, really good after the catch. He's not the fastest guy in the world. That's why he's like, he's a big slot, but you wish he had a little more, speed. If he's going to play inside, a little bit more twitchiness. So that was kind of the knock on him, but I think he plays faster on the field. Good hands, good, big playability, good contested. I think he's got really good field vision after the catch as well. It's a guy that I thought was a sneaky option to get drafted, but he ends up going to the Seattle Seahawks there. So, battle, obviously not for a starting job, but for a depth spot on that roster at the receiver position. So he's a guy that I liked. I enjoyed watching him this year. So that was kind of a sleeper undrafted free agent to watch out for here. Another one here, offensive tackle Mark Evans II from Arkansas Pine Bluff. So think offensive tackle, offensive lineman is on the Saints roster from Arkansas Pine Bluff. It sounds familiar, a little bit like Terron Armstead, who was big time tackle for them for a long time. Now with the Dolphins, obviously. Now he's probably not going to be Armstead. Armstead was a 3rd round pick for a reason, even out of Arkansas Pine Bluff. But I thought that was interesting. But I thought it was a guy that maybe would get drafted. And there's a decent possibility he's moved to guard. And we'll talk about why he didn't get drafted. It's It's because not the most athletic guy in the world, on the slower side, obviously. And that's the most not the most important thing when it comes to offensive linemen, but he was definitely a little bit on the slower side. But he's a really good run blocker. That could kind of hint towards him going to guard. And the tackles in today's NFL, they're pretty quick these days to handle those edge rushers. So he is a tackle, but I definitely could see him moving to guard. He was a guy that I thought somebody might take a shot on a little late, but a small school kid, obviously. So Arkansas Pine Bluff offensive lineman going to the New Orleans Saints. So that is very interesting there. Next, a couple of linebackers. Charlie Thomas, I actually liked his tape. I'm not really surprised he didn't get drafted just because, maybe I don't want to say he's a tweener, but because some people may think, is this guy better off at safety? But, so a little bit one of those guys. But so I'm not really shocked he didn't get drafted, but I definitely had a draftable grade on him. He was pretty solid. He's pretty athletic, rangy, playmaking linebacker that could cover, and you kind of see, why the safety vibes from him. But I feel like he's kind of today's style outside linebacker. In a 4-3 makes sense. Browns run a 4-3. Maybe like a poor man's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, behind him. So like another option after him, perhaps on the Browns. But he had a flashy tape. He's not gonna. The knock is, is he more of a safety playing linebacker? I think those types of guys are working in today's NFL, where they kind of give you safety vibes, but they're linebackers, especially in the 4-3. So I like that. But and I guess he's not getting downhill and making these huge hits and filling lanes a whole lot. So I guess that's why he didn't get drafted. But I liked his tape. I thought it was pretty decent for a late round guy. He goes undrafted. In the Browns, I think could use a guy like that. And then, if they want to try him at safety, I guess go for it. I'm not really totally against that. But so I thought that was a sneaky good, not a big name, but a sneaky good undrafted free agent signing there. Another linebacker, Aubrey Miller Jr. going to the Dolphins, the Jackson State standout defender here. He tore it up at the Senior Bowl. He looked really good there, actually. So I was like, I didn't have him on my radar going into that. So I, watch him at the Senior Bowl looking pretty good, and I kind of dig a little bit deeper on him, and like, all right, maybe this is a sneaky guy to get drafted earlier than we are. Not only get drafted, but get drafted earlier with thing. But he goes undrafted. He played weaker competition. I guess it's tougher with the linebackers. I specifically looking at that position because it's tough in the NFL. You even see some guys kind of switch teams and switch schemes, and for some reason it's just super difficult, even for NFL, like good NFL guys. So I guess it's just a tough position in today's game. So I guess going from the weaker competition was a little bit too much of a gamble. I really thought somebody take a shot at him in the 7th round. But he's solid. I guess really not super flashy. Kind of looks flashy looking at that picture. But I feel like he's a guy that kind of gets the job done. He's pretty decent across the board in almost every category. Like he'll get downhill. He'll fill a running lane, make the tackle. He'll drop in coverage. Like, is he going to do anything absolutely mind-blowing? I don't think so. But I think it's a candidate to make the team here as a backup on the Dolphins, which I think could use some backup off-ball linebackers there. Going to Vic Fangio, a great defensive mind, makes a lot of sense. So I like that one a lot for the Miami Dolphins. And then safety, KAEVON MERRIWEATHER from Iowa. Iowa's just got a really tough defense in general. They play. I love how they play team defense. Like everybody's kind of feeding off each other, all making each other great. I don't know, like during the year, was there like a... Of course, there's better players than others. Some of the guys, there's a couple Iowa defenders that got drafted pretty high, but I think it's a pretty balanced team defense, and they almost feel it feels like pretty close to an NFL zone defense out there. So, and most of college football is man coverage because you're younger kids. They're not always the smartest guys, even if they're freak athletes. They're young. It's pretty simple for them to go out and cover in man. But Iowa runs a ton of zone, and they had a couple guys drafted out of that. And he does a pretty good job at that safety spot in zone. And the Buccaneers run a ton of cover 3. We saw quite a bit of cover 3 specifically from Iowa. So I like that. I thought maybe he would get drafted later by a zone team. Like teams are like, all right, we don't really have to teach this guy zone coverage. You look at teams like Georgia, like that defense. I mean, they got 5-star talent like crazy, but they run zone very, very well. But then, after that, it's really Iowa. So, in terms of like NFL zone defense, so I like that experience. Solid player. And the Bucs also lost some safeties. I thought maybe they would draft, early even, like a guy like, if it was really early Brian Branch, if it was a little bit mid-rounds, who actually ended up going a little later than I thought, was Antonio Johnson. I thought was an incredible fit for the Bucks, but a different style safety than Merriweather here. But I like the fit. I like the experience. So that's a sneaky one there. That's really not a huge name, even though, the Iowa defense is very good, so he should be talked about a little bit more. And then quite a few edge rushers I want to talk about here. HABAKKUK Baldonado from Pittsburgh, actually born in Italy, so that was pretty cool. But he's a stud. I know this is another guy that I watched during the year. Like I noticed in West Virginia game, week 1, like that Pittsburgh D-line was good. Like that's another one of those, like they played team defense on that defensive line, and really more than the defensive line, but really the defensive line. Like it was a really good unit. So he stood out a lot. Like he shows moments of power, moments of using his length, moments of athleticism, just making big plays. So I think the Giants get a good one here. I thought another one where I thought somebody would take a shot on him just because he had those moments that stood out. Well, watching him live, I really noticed that. Going back and watch the tape, was I any higher on him? No, but for some reason the guys that I noticed live, like where they stand out, like those guys always end up working out in my experience. I don't know. But it's a pretty good one. I thought, more likely to go to a 4-3 team, so that's what was a little interesting because I felt like he was a 4-3 end. We'll see what the Giants do with them. They can have some fun here, which, I mean, they're not going to just stick, to their guys standing up. We'll see Thibodeau put his hand in the dirt sometimes because he can do both. But we'll see. It's a well-coached defense over there by Don Martindale. So I like this kid going to the Giants here, even though you maybe wanted him a little bit more in a 4-3, but it's a good player. It's a good player here. A couple more pass rushers here. Iko Leota from Auburn, who was pretty productive, more productive year by year, season by season for Auburn, and they had a pretty solid defense too. They had a couple guys get drafted, around that position as well. Like Derek Hall played opposite of him, and then Colby Wooden played, a little inside outside. So and Leota, who was pretty productive this year, just feels like a good fit with the Panthers. They're running that 3-4 now. And, they as of right now, they could sign one of those free agents. I would expect them to, actually, that are available. Guys like Leonard Floyd, somebody like that. But as of right now, it's kind of like a battle opposite of Brian Burns. They traded up to get DJ Johnson, which I do like his upside. So maybe, he'll give the current veterans a little opposite of Brian Burns, because Brian Burns locked in, obviously. But he can give them more of the battle than an undrafted guy like Leota here. But watch out for him to make a sneaky impact in camp and preseason. So that was a pretty interesting one for the Carolina Panthers. Just really like the fit there. And then one more, Isaiah Land from Florida A&M going to the Dallas Cowboys. Super productive in his career. I think more so 2 years ago, but he was very, very productive throughout his career. Just kind of a flashy pass rusher, just kind of a guy that, got the job done. He's really quick off the ball and just got to the quarterback. And some talk because, I don't really know if he's lacking size to me or the measurables, but some talk because of that he could move off ball. To me, he's just the guy that gets after the quarterback. So, but some talk about him moving to linebacker. We'll see what the Cowboys try to do with them. So this might be one on this list that is a little more challenging to make the roster, just because teams might not know what to do. I know what to do with him. I think he's an edge rusher. So. But I've heard that some teams may like him. So we'll see what the Cowboys, where they like him at. So I don't know if he's really going to work out there, but he could be like your blitz. Maybe they can turn him in because they brought in Anthony Barr last year, who actually was, he was actually an edge rusher at UCLA, and the Vikings got him for 4-3 outside linebacker, and he kind of stuck as a off-ball linebacker that can drop in coverage, but also can blitz because he's kind of got that background. And the Cowboys brought in Barr last year. So maybe they can try to create something like that with him. That's a possibility, kind of use him in the blitzing game, but he's almost like a hybrid type player. I mean, Parsons is basically a hybrid type player. So it'd help if he kind of learns from him, but yeah, maybe they're trying to turn him into that style to play alongside part in the future. I mean, they're not expecting a lot right now, but they bring him into camp. Let's see. They go. Let's see what we got with this kid. Let's see what we can do with him. So that's why you like the signing, because it's a guy you can kind of get creative with, and it's a guy that's got a lot of production getting after the quarterback, and he's a freaky dude too. So it's just the guy you want to bring in to see what you got, because it's kind of like you know, when you almost want to say boomer or bust, but it's really not a a big deal because it's like no risk bringing in a guy like this. So those are 10 guys I want to talk about. We already talked about 15 in a very recent video, and I actually ranked my top 10, my favorite 10. There's some really good ones up there. These undrafted free agency videos always end up being very popular. People really like them. So I thought, and I do the one that we already did every single year on the Saturday night after the draft. I'm like, why not do another one? These are fun. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. There's probably more out there. You guys might have an opinion on some other sleepers. Let me know in the comments, or we're always talking with you guys on Twitter. There was some good ones this year, guys that are unique players that can make the team. But yeah, check out those recent videos. There's a playlist full of the draft 2023 draft videos, so check it out. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on me, much appreciated. Follow us on Twitter. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.